Hello, it's James here from Horse Race Ratings, and this is the tutorial for the brand new feature of the website, and that is the Inplay Betting Analyzer. There are 3 subscriptions available for this. There is a subscription for members who have the Pro ratings. They can subscribe to this for £15 because that includes you already have the Pro license. There is also a standard members version, which means you can't save systems or extract any data, but you can use the tool in its entirety. That'll be available for £20. And then anybody who doesn't actually use the ratings but wants to use the Inplay Bet Analyzer on a Pro license, that will also be available at £25. So you can click the members areas on the website to subscribe to those services as required. Okay, when you load the analyzer, the betting analyzer, you can do that via the website for Pro and for Standard, but then on a Pro license you can also use it through the Power BI service as well, and you will be sent details to log in on that basis. Okay, let's click into the analyzer. Now, users of the ratings will be quite familiar with the types of layout that I use for kind of filtering and analysing data to produce results in tables. This is nowhere near as complicated as it doesn't have as much depth of information as the ratings system builder. There's a lot more information in that and a lot more stats available in that, but this is specific just to in-play betting aspects and profiles. A quick bit of navigation. We have a back button here to take you back to the main menu, and there's a clear button here, so if you start filtering and you're unsure what you are or you want to reset your position, you can just click on this button and it'll bring you back to this view. There is an information kind of FAQ key button over here. If you click on that, that will open up a page and that will list in detail all of the various kind of headers, filters, and what they actually mean. But that is not ready yet, but it will be in the next kind of week or two. Probably do that post Cheltenham. Okay, so then we have obviously all the filters, a lot of these kind of race filters, and we have some stuff in around the horse capabilities, its weight, official rating, a pace score. Pace is driven by 10 being the quickest, so horses were generally ride pretty prominent, or make all, or ride from the front, all the way down to 1 for horses where obviously they tend to be preferred to be held up out the back. We then have some more standard information on the trainer, jockey and stallion. We have some Betfair information here, so the Betfair price. We have the in-play movement margin as well. What odds I forecasted, so you can use it as a comparison to the Betfair SP. So I've ranked these as well, or rated these as well. So if I do 1 here, that'll pull back all of the horses that I forecasted as being favourite, basically. Let's just clear that. You can also then define a range of odds, and then you've also got the HRR odds as a percentage against the Betfair SP, so what the in-play minimum kind of movement was based on HRR odds compared to the in-play minimum. Then we have these are slightly different colour just to make these stand out, and this is the key kind of margin data that I've been calculated, and I will cover that, so you can actually refine this as well by searching through the various percentages of movement for those particular race categories. Then we have some rating information, so this is obviously HR top rated. We've got the plus rating, horse performance rating, that's based on win and place strike rates. And then we have a race rating, so this is just a calculation covering all of these factors here, between speed, last race rating, trainer rating, jockey rating, today's conditions rating, and a stallion rating. And then there are 3 additional kind of minor ones, but they do actually prove quite popular, and they are actually very effective of what they do. VDW is Van der Waal. This is a rating based on a horse's value in terms of prize money and how that calculates back to a particular rating against how many runs it's had, etc. It's a kind of a way to pull out horses who've performed better at a higher grade from a prize money perspective. There's a value rating here, HVR. So this basically looks at all of the profit across rating categories and adds them together, gives them a score, and that's rated. So this one is, if you use that one on a ratings perspective, the horses won't win as much, but they will yield much bigger returns. And then you've got a rate one here. This is basically similar to the value side, but it actually looks at the strike rates, not the profit. It pulls back a score for that, and is rated as well. So that factors in strike rates across all of these categories. Okay, then we have 3 button options here. So we're defaulted as we load into the analyzer to the in-play results table. So that's by clicking this button. There's an all in-play results table as well. This pulls in some additional Betfair, as you can see here, Betfair SP. And then there's a today's runner button here that just will pull back a list of the horses who were due to run or running on that particular race day. Okay, so that covers key filters and covers some navigation around the screen. What I will do is I'll just go back to the in-play results. Now, I'm going to use a horse for the purpose of running through the in-play results table and the data there, who's already run a few times, and I've got a good example here, and that is the great Eaton Miller. Now the data in here at the moment, as you can see from the dates, goes from the 1st of June 2020 to where we are now, the 11th of March. I am slowly kind of loading in all of the data. Eventually it'll go back to the 1st of January 2018, just like it is on the ratings and the system builder, the system builders for the ratings. Okay, so I've just filtered on Eaton Miller. You can see now it's just pulled back Eaton Miller's runs from the 1st of June to date, and on the results table there's a little bar on top here on the header row. You can copy this image, this visual, and you can send that to anyone. So you can use that in the Telegram group for the horse race ratings, or you can use the horse race ratings group, and you can share some of your thoughts and your information with other members. There's a filter button here. This just tells you what's been filtered, so if you do forget where you are, you can use that to check what you filtered on already. Then you've got focus mode. I'll come on to that shortly. And then you've got a 3-dot ellipsis here. This is where you have a pro license. Any data that you've pulled together that's displayed in the results table, you can export it to Excel or CSV files. Okay, let's go to focus mode. Now remember, this is just the HRR in-play results table. The Betfair SP one has a little bit more information, but we'll come on to that shortly. So what's in the table? So we have all the basic race card information. So track, code, race type, category type, obviously the date and time, class, distance going, the horse, its age, its sex, and then there's a bit of racing information here. So what was it a fav and what the results were. There's some rating information, so the horse race ratings, HR plus, and the horse performance rating. Quite key if you want to do some research on those, to use the filters available in the actual builder. Then we have some Betfair SP information, so the Betfair SP that the horse went off at, what price it hit in running and was traded at. I think it goes up from $100 and above. And then you have the in-play movement. So this is a movement between the SP and the in-play price. So you can see here on a couple of occasions it actually hit quite a big movement. It dropped down by 87% in this particular run, but that's because it won. But prior to that, on its first run here, it was second, went off at 15s, hit 3.3 in running. That relates to a 78% price move in running. Then we have some of the HRR odds and movements. So here we have the HRR odds. Again, you can see a couple of times actually priced up a bit shorter, and it actually ran pretty well, so on that basis. Then we have the in-play minimum percentage. So this one is based on the Betfair SP to the HRR calculated odds. Okay, on to the next phase of the data. What we have here now from HRR margin onwards is some key information. So I'll start off here. So the in-play all average. This basically is for Eaton Miller every run prior to the 8th of March when this race was at. So every run that horse has run prior to this run on this date, it pulls in the average price drop across all of its runs for Eaton Miller. And you can see here it's very, very consistent between 30 and 36%. Then there's a track and code average. So this looks at Eaton Miller at particular tracks and code. That will pull back all of the in-play movements for those races and apply them here. So you can see for the race on the 8th of March, which was his last run, there is a 0 there, and that's at Wetherby in a handicap. So he wouldn't have run previously in this type of race at Warwick. Then we have a race type. So this is handicap or non-handicap. Same principle applies. Class average, what class is the race or the horse raced in. That will calculate the right average for that. Then it's same for distance, same for the going, and then same for direction. And that's then what happens from here is these figures here are averaged to get you an overall average here, which is the margin that we have to play with if you follow the horse race ratings calculations. If you want to do your own calculations, export the data from here, and you can mess around with margins, etc. yourself. But if you want to, you could even use some of these. If you find an angle on the builder that the class average works out way better than everything else, then obviously you can utilize it from here. And at the end, then there's a little racing comment. So the back to lay price. So once this margin here has been calculated against the 7 aspects here that we are covering, you can apply this to the Betfair SP. So our back to lay price here would have been 2.59 because that is 22% less than 3.35. And if you go down to the bottom here, you can see it was priced about 15s, hit in play of 3. We had a back to lay price of 11.11. We would have made a 25% margin because that did match. As you can see that here. So it matched to this price, matched against the in-play minimum price here. Now on its last run it fell, so the margin is minimum. So that there would have been a losing bet because the horse fell in running and didn't have enough time to get down to the 2.59 price we wanted based on the margins here. As I said, you can use any of these margins to calculate your own prices, but this is what HRR data is telling us to use. Okay, that covers the in-play results table. If I go to the all in-play results table, it'll still hold the data for Eaton Miller. Let's go into focus mode, and what you'll see here is exactly the same information, but there's a few extra bits added, and it's this bit here. And this pulls in all of the in-play trading elements. Now where this is quite useful for the following purpose is where we have prices that we've set here, or that I've set at 25%. So we've got a 25% margin here for this one. If I look at the history of Eaton Miller, you can see here his early prices where they max out are way bigger than the SP odds, and they're actually way bigger than the morning odds. So Eaton Miller historically for these runs has actually been very well supported. So we can actually take our 25% margin here and won't get 11.11, but what we will get is off an earlier price, say around the 24 mark, is that we will be able to knock that down by 25%. So you're then probably looking at, I guess, probably 17, 18 in running would be the price that we had, and we'd come away with a tidy margin. The reason why this is quite interesting is because the bigger the odds, the more fluctuation there can be in the market. And as you can see, there's not much difference between the maximum price. Well, there is quite a bit of difference between the maximum price and the SP, but there's not much difference between the minimum price hit to the morning price to the SP. So sometimes it might be worthwhile to look at a horse's profile and their pricing kind of as early as possible the night before. You will then also get the trading volumes to support this as well. So you got the in-play trading volume here for these prices. You've got the morning volume against the price here, and then you've got the traded volume, which is everything from the market opening to the market closing, which is at the off. And that's the only difference between the two tables. Again, on the end, you've got the recent comment. On the recent comment, if you're in focus mode and you want to read it all, just highlight the mouse over the comment and it'll pull back all of the data for you. So that shows you a runner who's had kind of existing runs. Let's pull in now a runner who is running today. So let's go to today's runners, and I can just show you what I mean here. Let's have a look at Great Kalachi, because he's got a lot of runs. So this would be quite good to see this data. If I go to the all in-play results and just go into focus mode here, so what you can do, first off, you can see obviously the run today. There is no information there because we don't know what his price is, etc. But we do know what the margin is based on the historic data we have across all of these categories that was mentioned previously. And that price there we can either take against the morning price, some price during, or an overnight price, or we can take the Betfair SP. Now, why is Great Kalachi a good example of this? Well, you'll see in some cases that the horse here has actually had a lot of prices again which are bigger than a morning price, but also bigger than before the off. There's a couple of exceptions to the rule, like this run here. He was far bigger at the off than what he was here, but in a lot of the other runs, generally the horse is a bit bigger pre-morning, so overnight. So if we were to take that then, so if we looked at this example, we had calculated a 42% or a 41.97% margin drop. I would prefer, knowing that Great Kalachi has a bit of a up and down history in terms of its price movements and drifting, etc. I would want to take that against the biggest price possible from a back perspective. And here you can see 23 and 21 here. So we're actually quite aligned on these two numbers. So I would be more than happy to take 14 or 16 against Great Kalachi in this particular race. And then what happens is you place the back bet, you know what your margin is, that will give you a price. So that's 12.18. You would pay that price. And if we look at this here, the horse actually won the race anyway and went in at 1.01. So you need to kind of look at trends on that basis. And that's what you do here. So for the race on the current day, you would look at a 48% drop. You would look at where in the market the horse is currently, and then you would apply your margin to that. Or alternatively, what you could do is look at the historic odds, max and main and WAP pre-off to see what is actually happening, and you can actually apply the margins to that particular figure. In terms of the color coding on the prices, green means it's generally a bit safer, so it's got a 40% capacity in terms of a level, and then it goes from 40 to 70% price drop. These will be yellow, highlighted in yellow, and then you have the red ones which are more risky. They go from 70 all the way up to 99.99% in relation to price drops, and that applies to the same across these boards here. They're just for information only, but it'll give you a quick reflection of, okay, this horse has been a bit risky to follow, but it does have some big in-play price movements, so you need to kind of weigh that up in your findings. And then over here again we have the race comments as well. So this is a really good example where you can see that the horse is waiting to run, but you've got enough information here to say, okay, for this one I could easily apply a 40% margin. It does hit that, it has hit that more often than not, and there's enough range there for me to actually make a bit of a decent profit. Again, depending on your stakes, but the ROI would be fairly decent on that as well. Okay, that covers all of those aspects, and obviously on the top here you can filter around and you can do certain things with this. So if you wanted to look at a particular trainer, let's do Ollie Murphy for example. I've actually got the horse name there, not trainer name. Let's go to trainer name, that would help. So let's go find Ollie Murphy. I need to put a search. I will put a search button in there. I haven't done that. So let's just pick up another trainer. While we're doing this, let's pick up. Once somebody's had quite a few runners, let's pick Paul Cole. Would be a good one. Okay, so for Paul Cole, so what I've done is I've filtered all of Paul Cole's runners, and what you can do is you can just go through this list and you can start to see, you know, how his horses trade, how many of them get matched in running, and you can start to see this information here. So again, it's just all really, really useful stuff, and you can see, well, how does he do with a certain type, like with horses rated in the top 2 or 3. And then you can see again, look, you can analyze the data here, see that obviously the price movements are fairly safe, but then when you look at some of the margins here, okay, yeah, it probably would be profitable in the long run. There's definitely more yeses than nos there. Bit of a bad run there in terms of some of these horses, but that's what you can kind of do. You can kind of just go through and filter some of these things around, and that will pull back desired horses for you to look at. If you want to just look at today's runners, just click on the today's runner one, and you can actually just pull back the runners for that particular day. All you've got to do is when you select all of these, just drop the blank, and it'll pull back the runners for that particular day. Okay, Paul Cole, I've got selected over here. He doesn't have any runners, so let's just deselect him, and there we go. You've got other things in here, like how many runs the horse has had. So if you want to just pick up horses who've had 10 runs or more, that will go away and pull back the horses who have raced more than 10 times. And then you can obviously filter on those as well. The good thing with this is that the filters actually do change. So anything you filter here, it'll reduce the number of horses you can actually see in other areas as well. I think that pretty much covers it in terms of the Inplay tutorial. There's a lot of information there, but you've got your margins to use. You can see how that works from a horse race rating perspective. As I said, you can run the analyzer, or you can extract the data, and you can kind of tweak that as you see fit in whatever tool you desire to use, as long as obviously you don't resell it because it is copyrighted. But yeah, you've got that information there to hand. That covers the Inplay tutorial, explains what's in the results table, standard filtering on top. You can obviously research some of this stuff, and for phase 3 I will be adding in some calculated columns so you can actually see based on the systems how well the performance is. It's a little bit tricky to do, to display obviously the back and the late trade, and then obviously the commission bit, and then obviously the profit in between. So it's a little bit tricky, but I will try my best to get that done over the next kind of 2 or 3 weeks. But that concludes the Inplay Bet System Analyzer from Horse Race Ratings, our brand new tool. It's got a lot of useful data there, and I hope you guys enjoy it and subscribe to that particular service.